Hey everybody, welcome back to Wallet Reset. It's Mike Marlboro again. As you can tell, it's nighttime. I have my boys here again this weekend, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to make sure I make another video. Almost done with my 90-day challenge, and I'm thinking about pushing it farther. Anyway, today's video we're going to talk about the best blog hosting websites that you can use to set up your first WordPress blog, right? Now, I'm not going to make this into a list of like places that you can go. You can find dozens, hundreds even, of hosting sites that you could host a WordPress blog with. What I actually want to do is make sure that you guys understand a concept that I didn't understand when I first started, that I want to make sure everybody gets now, right? And that concept is kind of counterintuitive, and I'll just go ahead and tell you now what it is. It's what most people do, especially whenever I'm like working with somebody new. A lot of times I have people say, oh, well, I'll just go get a GoDaddy hosting and buy the domain from GoDaddy. And that's usually the mistake, right? So people typically think like, oh, I can just pick the most popular one. They're probably the best because they're so popular. That's not true. Most of the time, the best marketed is the largest, especially when it comes to hosting, because people technically, it's rare that people switch their hosting account, right? And when they do, they're going to switch for a long-term period of time, typically. It's not something that people switch every 3 months or every year, like with a cell phone, or 2 years like a cell phone. People tend to stay with the same company. The problem with that is that larger companies, right, the companies that are huge, are really the most likely to be hacked. They're the most likely to have a cyber breach because of the fact that if you're a hacker, for example, you're more likely to if you're going to take a risk, you're more likely to take a risk that can make you the best, put you in the best financial reward category possible, because you're taking a huge risk. And I learned this through looking at a lot of other very big hosting accounts over the years, or hosting sites go through stuff like that, sending out letters and hearing about people with their horror stories about like, this hosting account got hacked, I got to get all of my stuff migrated over to some other host so I can get my site back up. It's not something you want to have to deal with, especially if you're like, if you're making good progress, you're getting lots of sales, and all of a sudden your site is down for Christmas because somebody hacked into your hosting account or your host's secured back end, right? That's never something you want. So what I say to do, and what I tend to do myself, is I deal with what I would consider to be maybe like B or C level host accounts, hosting sites. So what I mean by that, hosting is typically, generally, it's just a product, right? You just buy a product of hosting, and they give you, each of these hosting companies gives you customer service that is really the service that they provide, right? They market themselves in a certain way, they acquire customers, so on and so forth. Regular business. What makes these B and C levels so good is that they tend to have just as good a customer service as a huge hosting website. The only difference is that they're not big enough to really be the ones that you have to worry about getting a security breach once a year. All right, that's really the value in dealing with a secondary, or somebody who's not so big, right? And that doesn't mean that they always get hacked, but trust me, they're going to go through a lot more when they're bigger than the smaller ones. Now, another thing that people make a mistake in is they go for something cheap. If you are trying to be cheap, you're going to end up making a mistake, period, because ultimately, when you set up a WordPress website or a blog that you're going to be blogging on for the next few years or what have you, you want it to be something where you're going to have a good uptime, right? Where you're not going to worry about your hosting going down at all. You're not going to have to worry about traffic not being able to stay on your site. And you want, ideally, especially in the beginning, for it to be easy to get your blog up, because the less you have to deal with the hosting account, the more likely you are to have success, because you don't want to have to set up a hosting account with with your WordPress blog and have to take 15 steps. All right, this leads me to what I use, right? So what I use a site called DreamHost. DreamHost I've been using them for about 8 or 9 years, something like that. And DreamHost is a really good hosting account. I don't own my domain names and my hosting account together, simply because if I ever want to change who I use my hosting with, it's easier to do that just by switching out 2 or 3 little sentences on my hosting accounts, and then I'm done. But I will say this: DreamHost has always been very, very good with their customer service. Anytime I needed something fixed or needed something, even something with my site, they dive into everything you need. So if you have problems setting up your WordPress blog, you get a chat, you're good to go. It's also fairly inexpensive for DreamHost. I think it's about, like, if you're just getting one site, it's like $4 or $5 a month. If you do like I do and you have multiple sites, the lowest you can spend, I think, is about $10 a month, which ends up being about $120 a year. And you don't always, like, for a lot of hosting companies, you have to pay for the whole year up front. With DreamHost, you don't have to pay for the whole year up front, so that makes it even better. All right. Now, if you are about to start your first blog, or if you're thinking about changing your host, I would say go with DreamHost. And the reason why I say that is because DreamHost obviously is what I use. I've never been let down, and most people who I've heard of that have used DreamHost or that do use DreamHost always have something positive to say about it. All right, so if you want to use DreamHost, in the description I've put a link. It's an affiliate link, but it will also give you the opportunity to get a free domain name when you sign up. So if you want to take advantage of that, go ahead and click the link below. All right. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and get involved with DreamHost if you're going to do your first blog. And I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next video. Take care.